The day was cleared. That was the hard part, and it is done. Nothing is scheduled. Nobody needs anything. The whole point of the day is that it is empty, and by the middle of the afternoon there is a low, specific restlessness that is not boredom and is not tiredness, and the day is being got through rather than had. Rest did not fail to arrive because the day was too short. It arrived and could not be accepted. These are 10 of the rules that stop it, and where each one was learned. Start with the rule underneath most of the others. Rest is being priced. Somewhere it stopped being a thing a person does and became a thing a person is owed, and anything owed has to be earned first. So the day opens with an audit. Was the week hard enough? Was it hard in the right way? Because busy does not always count, and neither does a week that went smoothly. This is not laziness, and it is not an illness. It is a rule about what rest costs. Learned somewhere it was true, in a house or a job or a year, where stopping genuinely had a price. The trouble with a wage is that somebody has to decide it has been earned. And the person doing the deciding has been working all week too, and is not feeling generous. The second one turns the day into a project. There is a list, not a work list. A good list. The walk, the book, the thing that has been meant to happen for a month. Every item chosen because it is restful. And a day with a list is a day with a target, which means it can be fallen behind on. By 4 in the afternoon, there is a version of the day that was supposed to happen, and the real one is losing to it. This is the quiet swap at the center of it. A day off with a deliverable is a working day with better contents. The list is not the problem. The scoring is. The third one never actually gets interrupted. The phone stays close. The messages get glanced at. Nothing arrives that needs anything, and the day is still spent in a slightly forward position, ready to be needed. The popular version of this, the dopamine loop, the hijacked brain, the tidy addiction model, is stated far more confidently than the evidence supports. What is easier to defend is smaller and worse. Attention held ready for a thing that might happen is not available for the thing that is happening. Being reachable is not the same as being interrupted. It costs something anyway. And the tell is not how often the phone is checked. It is what happens when it is left in another room. Whether the day opens up, or whether something in the chest starts counting. The fourth one is waiting for a bigger piece of the day. 40 minutes is not enough to properly start. So the 40 minutes go to nothing in particular, and the bigger piece does not turn up, because a day is mostly made of 40 minutes. Underneath it is a rule about what counts. Rest has to be substantial to be real. The long walk, the whole afternoon, the thing done properly. And anything smaller is not rest, it is just a gap. So the gaps get spent on the phone, or on the almost tidying, and by evening the day reads as wasted rather than rested, which is a strange verdict on a day nobody asked anything of. Nothing was too small to enjoy. It was only ever too small to count. Now the one that is not a rule at all. Somewhere in the last year, there was an afternoon that got away. It was not scheduled and it was not earned. It ran long, it produced nothing, and at the end of it, there was no accounting. Nobody gave permission. That is the entire event, and it is the most important thing in this episode. Because every rule on this list is a claim about what rest costs. That afternoon tested the claim, in a real room, on a real day, and the bill never came. And this is the place to say the plain thing. These are ordinary learned rules. Almost everybody runs several of them. Recognizing yourself here is not a symptom, not a diagnosis, and not evidence that anything is wrong with you. It does not generalize on its own. The rules come back the following weekend, but it proves they are rules. And a rule is something a person once learned, which is a different object entirely from a fact about who they are. The sixth one has a start time, and it keeps moving. Rest begins when the last thing is done. Not most of the things, the last one. And a list is not a queue that empties. It is a surface that refills. So the start time is always a little further out than the day is long. The tidy version of this, the unfinished task that keeps its own file open in the mind, is more popular than it is settled. The smaller claim is the safe one. A thing left half done is easier to bring back to mind than a thing finished, and it does come back. So the pause is real, and it is genuinely scheduled, and it is scheduled after something that does not end. The day was never refused. It was only ever postponed by one task. The seventh one only rests in ways that look like something. The garden counts. Cooking properly counts. A project counts. Sitting in a chair in the middle of the afternoon does not count, and it is noticeably harder to do when there is somebody else in the house. Doing nothing is unaccounted for time, and unaccounted for time invites a question. What are you up to? Are you all right? Is everything fine? Usually the question is kind. It still has to be answered. An activity answers it in advance. That is most of what the activity is for, which is why the restful afternoon can leave a person more tired than the working one. It was not rest. It was a performance of rest with an audience of one, and the audience was often nobody. The eighth one rests on purpose for a reason, and the reason is Monday. The sleep is protected because the week needs it. The walk is taken because it clears the head. The weekend is described out loud as recharging, as though a person were equipment between shifts. All of it is sensible, and all of it hands the day a job, because anything with a job can fail at it. If Monday arrives and the tiredness is still there, then the rest did not work, and a person can be genuinely disappointed by their own weekend. Rest that has to justify itself by what it produces is being measured, and nothing that is being measured is quite at rest, including the person doing the measuring. The ninth one loses the end of the day to a day that has not happened. Around the evening, the mind arrives at tomorrow. The first meeting, the message that will need answering, the week folding itself back into shape. Nothing is being solved. It is being previewed. This is the least fair one on the list because those hours are free. Nothing is required of them. They are simply spent somewhere else. A day does not end when the clock says. It ends when attention leaves it. And attention has usually gone on ahead to stand in a room that is still empty. The evening was not short. It was occupied. The 10th one is the quietest, and it is the one that makes a free day hard to spend. Somebody asks what you feel like doing, and there is a pause. Not a difficult choice. An actually blank one, because preference is a muscle, and this one has been spending its time on what is needed instead of what is wanted. It is not lost. It has just not been asked in a long time, and it answers slowly, the way anything does when it is out of practice. And here is the part that keeps this honest. The blank is not unusual, and it is not a personal failing. Ask almost anyone in that room what they would do with a day that owed nothing to anybody, and watch how long the pause is. Everyone here has spent their attention on what was required. The one who answers instantly is often answering with what they think they should want. 10 of them. Almost nobody runs one, and not one of them is a flaw. Each was learned somewhere it was true. A house where stopping was noticed. A job where being reachable was the difference. A year that genuinely had to be got through. They are still running because they were right once. The only real question is whether the room they were learned in is still standing. There is nothing here to fix tonight, and no program to start. This episode is not one more thing to be behind on. It goes 1 hour at a time. 1 hour that is not earned, not planned, not measured, and owes its results to nobody. The day off was never the problem. It was only ever the rules that got brought into it.